Mac! Wait up! Mac! 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 You're not Mac!
Mac? I ain't no Mac. I'm a Peterbilt, for dang sake. Turn on your lights, you moron.
Now get ready for another exciting episode of We're Just Ken, where comedy meets life.
Oh man, Colin, your hit rate on those opening videos, 100%, man.
Yeah,
100%.
bravo,
Well,
man.
this one's all you, man. I had no clue, so it sounded very niche.
Was that me?
Yeah.
I know the
Well done.
I know the opening, like video, audio, whatever of a podcast isn't original, but like it's genius, and I love that we do it.
Well,
you
in
started
full,
it.
in
That's
full
all you.
disclosure, we completely ripped it off of The Ticket and The Dumb Zone.
Dude, they'll come at they'll sue you, man. They'll come at you. They'll come for all our profits.
Dustin, are you a ticket guy? Do you live in the Metroplex, Dustin?
I'm in Fort Worth, yeah, but not a ticket guy. No, not a ticket
Okay.
guy.
Have you heard of it?
You know what? I honestly have not.
Okay.
So, Colin, excuse Kelver. He, I believe, is from the Houston area, but he actually grew up a St. Louis Cardinals fan.
Oh, cool. I'm up here in
Yes.
St. Louis.
No,
Yeah,
it's
so
not
I
cool.
grew up in Memphis, so AAA team, so just kind of adopted
Hey,
that.
so
Yeah,
you'd be a Ranger
2011.
You'd be a Ranger fan now. Wait, no, the Rangers are in Memphis. They're in Nashville. Sorry.
Yeah,
Scratch that.
but 2011 was a great year, though. That was a lot of fun.
So
Ben has fond memories. I was with Ben.
me and my now wife had our biggest fight that night. Mostly my fault, my emotional state. So for those that don't know, the Texas Rangers played the St. Louis Cardinals in the 2011 World Series. At the time, I was playing college baseball at Howard Payne, and so was Dustin Kelver, our guest, who I'll introduce in a little bit.
Wait, I gotta give him the applause meter.
I said I'll introduce him a little bit.
Oh, well, I can
Now
play
it's
it
for
again.
him. That was well, you'll probably play it again on accident.
That's true. I wouldn't worry about it.
Well, anyways, so famously, the Texas Rangers were one strike away twice in Game 6 of the 2011 World Series of winning it, and they lost. They lost that game, and then Game 7 wasn't even close. So yeah, no, it was great times. Great time. I will give Kelver credit; he handled it with grace. I'll never forget we had a workout. I can't remember if it was after. I don't even know if you remember this, Kelver. We had a workout either the day after the World Series ended or the day after Game 6. But regardless, I wanted you to pop off because I really wanted to fight somebody in the weight room. And you didn't say anything. So I guess that's credit to you, credit to, man, I was so mad. I've never been more, like I said, I broke my door of our house that night, rental house. Sorry, Kirk. And man, I've never been more mad in my life. But anyways, so Kelver may not know the ticket because he's a Houston / St. Louis fan. So good times. But
yeah,
anyways,
I don't remember that workout, but and I'll never admit to being scared on a podcast, but we'll just leave that one there.
I don't know if you were scared. I think you just were like, there's no point.
There must have, it was that would have been, it was about 50 to 1 there, so you kind of pick your battles.
What's worse? Side note, our pitching coach in college, Jerry Don Gleaton, he played for University of Texas. Played, I don't even know how many years in the majors. I think it was close to 10 or more than 10. he loved to give everybody a hard time, and that's like the understatement of the year. And that whole time, he wasn't really a Ranger fan because, like I said, he played for like the Tigers. I think he played for the Rangers for a little bit, but yeah, he played for all these teams. And that whole, I'll never forget that workout the next day. He just thought it was the funniest thing that everybody was so mad. And it made me, that's what made me furious. It wasn't you. It was thinking JD getting under my skin like only JD can.
Yeah. He's a professional at that, no doubt about it.
He sure is. Well, anyways, so like I said earlier, Dustin Kelver, you don't have to do the applause meter. Played at Howard Payne University. We went to Howard Payne University. Kelver played baseball as well as I did, so that's kind of where we met. And honestly, I haven't talked to him much since then, but I see him on social media, seemingly killing it in what he does. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, Dustin Kelver. If you want to play
that invites the applause. Oh, whoops!
I knew it.
Hey, that's just as good.
You got cocky, Colin. Yeah, I don't really call you Dustin. I guess I always called you Kelver back then. So yeah, Kelver, thanks for hopping on the pod.
Yeah, man, absolutely. It's so weird, in college. That's what everybody called me, and now it's like kind of weird when people call me Kelver. Now I'm like, did you know me back in a previous life, or what's the deal? So it's kind of cool hearing it again, though. I've started to reconnect with some of the HPU guys up here and starting to hear Kelver a little bit more, and so it kind of feels like home again.
Do you ever find your way back in Brownwood, Dustin? You ever end up back in there?
Man, I've been back a few times. I went back actually this year. I'm still in a fantasy baseball league with some of the guys.
Neat.
And we did like a little live draft with the guys who could make it. So I went back to Brownwood for that this year and saw, Rob and Big Cat and some of the guys. And then I think once before that I was in town for like a wedding, but hadn't been back a whole lot. But I will say it's a lot different now than when I went there. And I'm sure when y'all went there, if y'all have been back, I mean, I think it was February when I went, it was like you couldn't, I mean, downtown was popping, the whole thing. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, I think, Ben, I don't know if it was me and you, but some of the guys, we were just talking the other day about how we felt like there was nothing to do. But then in hindsight, compared to actual small towns, Brownwood was a metropolis. So, yeah, I've heard it's grown up quite a bit.
Yeah, there's breweries and stuff downtown. I mean, it's like a totally different feel to it for sure.
I mean, I'm originally from a town of 8,000, so I thought Brownwood was just like the coolest place ever. It had a mall. I mean,
the hall.
If you call it the hall. Had a Corn Dog 7, and a Hibbett Sports. What else you need, man?
Stripes burrito.
Yeah,
it had a Ben, what was the clothing? This was like the only place that you might be able to find clothes was Forever. Was it Forever 21 or Limited 2 or something?
That's not where I shop, Colin.
What was that called?
I don't know. Like for
you know
men?
What I'm talking about? That's for men. I think it was Forever 21.
Ben had all the pledges by his clothes, so he doesn't remember.
Colin.
We weren't all buying Carhartt at Home Depot, Ben.
Oh, Forever 21 is not a male store. Like you don't go there for men's clothing.
I wanted your help to remember the name of it.
Now, if that's your style, that's fine, Colin. Like we're not here to judge, man.
It's 2024, man.
Yeah,
okay, I'm gonna find the name by the end of the episode. I'll find the name.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Anyway,
there's like a Penny's there at some point. Is that what you're thinking of?
That's big time talk. Yeah. All the cool kids, though. Abilene was where the real shopping happened at Dillard's.
That's right.
In the men's section.
I think the only thing I went to that mall for was Chick-fil-A, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably the only time I ever went there.
I forgot they had one of all places. You
knew they were sweating whenever Chick-fil-A moved out of the mall because that was the only reason for, I'd say, 90% of the foot traffic.
No doubt.
No lie. So where I live now, up here in Sherman Denison, there's still a mall, and there's literally nothing there but a Dillard's, essentially. And it's the old Dillard's, like that compartmentalized department stores that, nowadays everything's just open. You walk in, you're in one big room, This feels like you walked back into 1988, and I actually love it. It's amazing. But anyways.
We took the girls real quick, we took the girls to see Santa last year, and there weren't any Santas around that we could book in time. So we go to this middle of nowhere town that has a random mall, And when I walk in the mall, it was like a time machine. It was like carpeted flooring. And the only thing that seemed to have any buzz was upstairs. There was like a Christian Scientist reading room. It was like the whole second floor of the mall. And then I think there was like a Claire's and Santa. So I don't think it's on the docket for the next Santa trip. It was kind of frightening.
Is that me? How do we always?
I think we're back.
How do we always have internet issues? Yeah. So we took Ford, and I think it was Ford when he was like 2 or 3. And this Santa, they had an operation. You went in, they rented out. It's like what's that? Spirit Halloween. They rented out this small little suite because retail locations were closing up like crazy a few years ago thanks to COVID. And we went in there and they literally had a machine. Boom, take a picture, pick this, $50 out. It was the greatest thing. Like I'd pay $50. There's no waiting. The Santa looked real, as Santas go. I thought it was the greatest operation ever. And I'll never forget I didn't realize the guy that owned it or kind of operated it was a customer of mine. And he said, I made more money in 2 weeks than I did the rest of the year. So he does that every time. It's genius.
Not a bad bit.
No.
Well, I'll share a Santa story. I went to see Santa last year at Forever 21. No, I'm just kidding.
That's good. Good
see,
call.
Dustin, when you were there, was it a bunch of like macho dudes there shopping?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yeah. They all talked about Brownwood too. It's really weird. I have no idea.
That's where they started shopping.
Yeah.
Oh, a small world. Anyways, Kelver, man, we appreciate you coming on. Like I said, I know get into kind of what you do on social media. I know you're in heavy truck sales. I believe you work for Mac, which if anybody caught the opening, that was from the I'm going to guess a year here, 2009. I think it's 2009. I don't know. Disney Pixar movie Cars, where the transporter of Lightning McQueen was actually a Mack truck, and Lightning McQueen got lost and had to go find it. But anyways, yeah. So Kelver is a truck sales for Mack, and man, why don't you just tell us kind of your journey after college, a little bit about yourself, and kind of how you got started with where you're at.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate you guys having me on. I think this is a great idea, and appreciate kind of reconnecting. Certainly been a little bit since I've talked to you, Ben. So, but yeah, sure. After college, I actually stayed and got my master's there at Howard Payne, and it was a year-long program. So I actually was on. I did the play-by-play for the baseball team that year, and traveled with the team and did the whole deal. And so then after that, I was working at the Hideout Golf Course there in Brownwood, and didn't really know what I wanted to do. I had a master's degree and all this debt, and I was like, man, what's next? So my cousin, my dad was born on a dairy farm up in Western New York, and I've still got a lot of family up there. And my cousin had gotten me a summer job a few years prior to me graduating college. And he's like, hey man, just come up here and do that again. And it was, almost double the pay that I was making. So I was like, yeah, I'll go do that until I figure out what I want to do. And did that for a little bit, and ended up, his wife kind of got me into sales up there. I started working for a company that sold kind of like some thermal flooring type stuff, wood decking, that type thing. And, didn't make it that long up there. It was a pretty small company, and they were just kind of doing some reorganizing, and just was like, hey, we're going to go in a different direction. And I was like, man, I got to get back down to Texas. So packed up all my stuff, came back down to Houston, and ended up finding a job shortly after that, getting into logistics. I ended up working for a third party, freight broker kind of, so we basically kind of just, broker out freight loads for people and UPS shipments. And that was kind of where I cut my teeth in the sales, where there was a lot of cold calling. I mean, it was, 60, 80 calls a day, knocking on doors, wearing a full suit in Houston, Texas in the summertime. It was a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed that part of it. So I think I did that for almost 2 years, and then just kind of got burnt out with it. And you kind of, as you start getting into the sales environment and, just getting older, you kind of start breaking down your pay structure a little bit. You're kind of like, I'm leaving a lot of meat on the bone here. So ended up getting linked up with a company that had just opened a branch in Houston. They were doing some trailer leasing. And so got into that, started leasing some dry van trailers and some flatbed stuff there in Houston. And I was there for about 2 years. And then the wife at the time, her dad knew someone who knew someone at Bruckner's, and he was the trailer sales manager and was looking for a sales guy. And she always wanted to come back up to DFW, and so interviewed for that. And so that job is actually what brought me up to Fort Worth. And I guess I moved up here December of 2020. So I'm going on year 4 now with Bruckner's. And yeah, you're exactly right, Ben. We're a Mack dealership. So kind of, I guess in a 1,000-foot up view, we're like a car dealership for big trucks, but we obviously deal with more, commercial sales than retail stuff. But man, it's been great. It's a family-owned company. They're out of Amarillo. We're, I guess, going on over 90 years in business now. It's third generation owners. And, I think one of the things that I really appreciate, you kind of have to go through some bad. Can we cuss on this?
Yeah, man.
Okay. Okay. I just want to make sure that I'm, being mindful.
We're family friendly, but we've had some 4-letter words fly.
Okay. You have some bad jobs, and it makes you appreciate really good ones. And I think that kind of going through that process a little bit. In your 20s, you're just kind of pulling your hair out, thinking, "Man, what am I going to do with my life? What's this going to look like?" I went and did all this schooling, and I have no idea what I want to do. My whole life was sports and baseball. And it's now that that's gone, what's out there, and you finally land in a spot that, I tell people now that I'm like, man, I'll retire with this company if they'll let me. I really, really, I love what I do on a day-to-day basis. I love the people I work with, love the company that I work for. And, but if I hadn't gone through all those bad experiences with some jobs and learned all that stuff, I don't think I would necessarily appreciate it as much. But yeah, I basically am just kind of, I've got a territory here in Fort Worth that I call on. I kind of took over a little bit of a book of business and I've grown that a little bit too. And so, man, it's been really, really fun. It's been really challenging. I've had to learn a lot. I've never really been like a gearhead or a technical guy like that. And so I've had to learn a lot about the truck side of things. And, the situation I walked into was 2 veteran sales guys who'd been selling to these guys for over 30 years, and walking into that environment, COVID environment, everything was more expensive. We couldn't get them what they wanted, and really just trying to kind of figure out a way to you're just bringing bad news to these guys left and right. And you're the new guy, anytime a new guy comes in and tells you something's going to be more expensive, they're instantly just red flags. And so, having to learn how to build relationships with people through those circumstances, and people that are double my age and, used to guys that are older than I am. I mean, it's really, really been cool. I've learned so much. I've learned a lot about myself. It's made me grow as a human, in my own interpersonal relationships with people too. So, man, it's been a true blessing for me. And honestly, I'm super, super lucky to be doing what I'm doing.
You said a funny thing there. It was something that I experienced right out of college. I'm wondering if a lot of them do, but you go to school to play baseball or football or whatever sport. And it was funny. Honestly, I bet you had the same realizations I did. It's kind of like you're sitting there, you get your MBA. I don't know if you had an MBA, you said master's.
Yep.
You finish your 4-year degree. What's next? Oh, I can do this. And still, for me, it was, I could play another year of baseball, kind of delaying the inevitable of getting into the workforce, and still not knowing what I wanted to do. I had this unrealistic expectation that I was going to go pro. My mom still calls me and Ben, the Rangers need a bullpen arm. Are you sure you can't do it? I was like, Mom, I throw 70 miles an hour now, maybe. I don't think they need me. I just don't think they need me. But so I graduated.
You know what you got to do, Ben, is go out one night and find one of those speedometers and just start throwing the ball a little bit. All of a sudden, you realize you're throwing upper 90s. And
but he didn't realize it there. He didn't realize that he threw it 76, and then he walked past it and it 96. Colin's referencing The Rookie, if anybody out there doesn't get it. Great.
I was referencing Reagan.
Oh. Well, anyways, so yeah, Kelvin, it seems like you and I kind of had the same. Oh my gosh, the same realization. It's just we don't. It was something kind of my only critique of Howard Payne, and it really may not even be Howard Payne's fault, but it's I was not prepared to enter the workforce. I did not have any idea. And it's kind of embarrassing, like looking back now, just kind of how ill prepared I was and kind of how I went through, especially early, like professional life. Did you experience kind of the same? It kind of sounds like you kind of experienced the same way.
Yeah, 100%, man. And I think that the craziest part of it all was that, you got a lot of friends that go to be specific things, right? Like they're going to be an accountant, they're going to be, nursing, they're going to be a teacher. And meanwhile, business is so generic. You're just like, what am I even going to do with this? And truthfully, if it hadn't been for baseball, I don't know that I ever would have stuck into college. I mean, school was just never really my thing. I wasn't bad at it, but I never applied myself, and it never interested me or appealed to me.
It's kind of a means, right? It was a means to an end. You went to school to play baseball. Yeah, that's
exactly.
Yep, and exactly. Obviously, Howard Payne's Division III. I should have known early on I was not going to go pro. Like I should have had that realization, that, I'll bet the Rangers don't come draft me. And I bet I don't get like a free agent signing, whatever. But it is funny how we just aren't prepared. We're not thinking. And it's funny. I went to school. Colin was not that way. My old roommate Chandler was not that way. Even Kirk really wasn't that way. All these friends, and it's just crazy that I had that kind of idea of what life was at an early age. It just kind of, it's one of those things I wish I could just like, hey Ben, wake up. Like when you're 18, like, hey, wake up, think about tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you guys think, you both are sort of in the business space, and Ben, you've had a lot of different jobs. Do you guys think if you could go back in time, would you skip college and go into a trade and start advancing sooner? Or do you look back sort of fondly on your college experience, even though at the time you're saying, well, I wasn't ready for the professional world, but it is sort of just this weird transitory time of becoming an adult. I don't know. What's your view in hindsight of your time in college?
Kelver, I'll let you answer that first if you want.
Man, that's a tough one. I think about that often. I even think about just the other side of it too. Just like if I would have went to a different school, like if I just would have went to a big school, because I got all these people are, college football. I'm like, man, I ain't got a college team. The Yellow Jackets ain't on TV. So, but for me, I think
there was a couple of games we were. There was a couple,
and we were on the top 10 that one time that Tristan hit that shot.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I did forget
the grainiest video of all time.
Yeah, it shot off like a Razor flip phone or something.
That's right.
But no, I think for me, I don't know. I kind of get in that little bit of that butterfly effect when I start thinking about that, and like everything happens for a reason and brings you to where you are. And Ben probably won't admit this, agree to it necessarily while I'm here on the podcast, but I was a punk in college and I had to grow up a little bit. And I think that was an important part. I think what I learned is necessarily forgotten at this point, but growing up and just kind of slowly adapting into adulthood was an important thing for me. And I don't know, man, I think if I went back and did it all over, my life would look a lot different than it does now. And I'm pretty happy with where I'm at. So I'd probably just stand pat if I had to answer that.
Sure.
Yeah, no, that's a great perspective for sure. And I'm kind of the same way, that like I love everything about my life right now, even though I don't exactly love like what I'm doing, but I love like my family. I love where we're at. I love our situation, and I'm okay with where I'm at right now. But yeah, Kelver, I wish I was a little more of a punk on the baseball field, if I was honest. Like I wish I had that attitude. I didn't think you had an attitude of I'm going to get better every day, and I'm going to be mad until I am. And I think that's a great attitude. But for me, like I'll never forget. So when I went to college, this is 2008. I'll never forget a buddy of mine I went to school with. He didn't want to go to college. He said, I'm going to go work at this place called Air Tractor in Alney on the other side of Graham. They sell spray rigs, airplane spray rigs, crop dusters, essentially. He goes, I'm going to work my way up, and in 4 years I could be, $100,000 in debt, or I could have, 5 figures in my savings account. I was like, Brady, like, man, you're crazy. I was like, what are you doing, man? Like, this is an opportunity. All I had in this vision, I didn't know what I was going to do after college. So it's really ironic of me to tell him, like, you're crazy, when he had a plan and I didn't have a plan. I had a what did Trump say the other day? I had a concept.
The concept of a fun.
Man, looking back, he was so right. I don't know. Like, I enjoyed college. I was fortunate enough that I didn't have to pay for a lot of it. But like, I wish I would have went back and still did the college, but had an idea of what I wanted to get out of it. I do think, like, if I would have started in a trade and I could already, I'd have my own business, I'd have all these things, but maybe I wouldn't, in 08, that was not the greatest time to get into the trade when I was coming out of high school with 18 months, 2 years of economic, standstill. And who knows what would have happened, but I definitely think about that. And I think that, Brady was right in what he did, and I'm happy with where I'm at. Like, it's kind of like a give up answer almost, but it is funny that he had that perspective back then and I didn't. And I don't know. I just wish I could go back to give myself perspective. Should have had hindsight, Colin.
Dustin, growing up, did you have a dream job? I mean, was it pros? What was it?
Man, I did. Much like Ben, it was always sports for me. I mean, I've still got a picture on my phone. I think we did first grade. We did career day, and they had a Memphis Redbirds jersey there, and I threw that thing on because I'm like, that's what I want to be, right? And then as I started to realize, like, athletically, I wasn't there. I wanted to get into, whether it was scouting, front office stuff in the MLB team. I mean, that was like ideal for me. I was like, man, it'd be awesome. But there's 32 of those jobs, or just slightly more than that. That's a hard deal. And and then I was like, oh man, I'd love to have my own, just talk show radio, deal. And so I did the little play-by-play, and I was like, oh man, I love the play-by-play stuff. And so I kind of bebopped around a little bit, but for me, it was always sports oriented in some way. And, sure. I kind of laughed back. There was a professor, man, I'm blanking on his name now, Ben, but is it the older gentleman who always taught the entrepreneur classes?
Mark Patton.
And I remember I was sitting in his class, I don't know, day 2 or 3, and he kind of asked what you wanted to do. And I mentioned my sports dreams to him. And he just absolutely embarrassed me in front of everybody, basically saying, yeah, that's never going to happen. You need to have a realistic plan and all this. And again, Ben already kind of alluded to this, that I was, I'm going to get better every day and be Mad Tom Matz. I was just red hot about it. And like, oh, I'm going to show this guy wrong. And, I guess my 81 mile an hour fastball wasn't enough to show him wrong, but like looking back on it now, I'm like, man, that guy was spot on. Like, he's like, you need to get a job where, you can just do those things as a hobby. You can have the financial flexibility to have those things as a hobby. And yeah, I mean, I do nothing oriented with sports now, and I love it. So
it's funny you say that. I'll never forget. I had Dr. Patton early on. It was right when he got tired paying, like in 09 maybe. And I was actually a business major at the time, and I switched to history. And I never forget, he asked me in front of the whole class what I was wanting to do. I was like, well, actually, I just switched to history. I want to be a toad. And he just looked at me and said, that's the biggest mistake you've ever made. In front of, it was a, what do they call those classes that are big? Not a survey class.
Surveys.
Yeah. Maybe it was a survey. Stadium? Yeah, there was 50. Yeah, it was one of the biggest classes over there.
It was like half a Howard Payne in there.
Yeah. And I just I've never sweat more, and I sweat anyways. I've never sweat more in my life when he said that. And sure enough, so I get my history degree to go back and get my MBA. And he remembered me. He's like, so you gave up on history, huh? That's smart. I kind of wish I would have listened. Like, I really enjoyed him. I loved his upfront and brunt nature. But yeah, no, that's funny that he said the same thing.
For sure. And that's what a lot of the 18-year-olds need. Like, you have this pipe dream reality that you're living in, and he's already lived a life and seen it all and knows how the percentage chance of any of that actually happening is. And, I think everyone kind of needs somebody in their life who can kind of breathe some reality into it. For sure.
I was going to ask you guys, because y'all are both serious baseball dudes. I played, but I was not very good, and I had no aspirations of playing in college. I coached, and so I would have girls come through the system who maybe thought about playing at the next level, maybe not professionally, but do y'all think American culture sort of overpromises and underdelivers on youth sports and what they're going to do with it?
I would say at the select level, the club ball, all that is geared towards we're going to get you a D1 scholarship. I don't want to know what my parents paid for my select baseball. I mean, I grew up in Graham, so I drove 2 hours, 3 times a week, 2 hours one way, 3 times a week into Arlington for either practice or lessons and then games on the weekends. I would hate to know, but it was kind of like, you do this, we'll guarantee, a lot of D1 coaches. And end up, like, I wasn't good enough to, be D1. I talked to several of them, but not serious enough. And so, yeah, it was definitely I don't know if it's more of a over promise. It's we're going to like put this sheet over everybody's eyes. You give us the money, we'll get you to college. Like, trust us. And I feel like that's more, it's a money making business for everybody, for the coaches, for the fields, the umpires. It's just a huge money making opportunity.
Did you, Ben, did you have Billy Bean sitting in your living room saying you were a 5-tool player?
No, he went there and he told me I was going to play first base. And I was like, I've never played first base. I've only ever caught. But
you're a picking machine.
I was a
picking machine.
It's incredibly hard. Shout out Ron Washington. Man, dude, our references are out of control right now, Colin. Is that Dustin, how you felt, Kelber? I mean, obviously, like, it's different everywhere, but I have a feeling that was kind of baseball.
Yeah, for sure. Full transparency, I was never huge into that. We just financially, we weren't in a position where that was something that was readily available for me. I did do a few here and there, and it was always just, I don't know, it just seemed like a big waste of time anyway. But I definitely think nowadays for sure. And I mean, even I think a lot of people probably still don't know this, but like even D1 baseball guys, there's only 25% of those guys that are on a full ride anyway. So, I mean, most of those guys that are playing are having to pay for school somehow, right? So, I don't know, especially on the baseball side, it's such a small percentage of people that are even going to be at that level anyway. It's just, I don't know, it's definitely a money making machine for sure, and they just try and squeeze as much of that lemon as they can, and it's just a big numbers game for everybody, right? They get 500 people at a camp, and they know maybe 8 of them are going to be legitimate prospects for somebody.
Yeah. So. I do think that college programs, and I guess I can only speak to higher paying, but I feel like I get the idea from this everywhere, is that I feel like they need to do a better job of preparing the reality to come set in that, hey, one day you're not going to put on a uniform, you're going to put on, a dress shirt or a polo and slacks, and you're going to go to work. Like, envision that. Yes, we're here to get better. We're here to win baseball games, but like, envision that. Like, where are you? What do you want your life to turn out to be? So I think it's less on like pre-college, and it's more on the programs and universities to kind of, sell that idea and sell that, yeah, we're here to get you educated and get you prepared for the workforce. And that's just my opinion.
And I think they can do that well at the Division III level, to say, like, let's be real. Nobody's on scholarship here. We want to win games, and the coaches are paid to win games, but the players aren't. So I think they can be realistic about, like, we're glad you're in the program and we want to win games, but we also want to set you up for success, assuming you're not going to go to the next level.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's player to player, and Kelber can speak to that. There's certain players on our team that they were prepared to do, they had a plan after college. And so it's not necessarily all on the college. It's obviously, at the end of the day, if you're over 18, it's your own individual problem, so to speak. But I do think that there could be some, reality checks every once in a while. Okay, what's our plan?
Yeah, for sure.
That's just me.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's kind of the point of college is to prepare you for the next step too. So yeah, I mean, if you're still, and again, that there is some self-awareness there too, where you have to kind of realize on your own that, like, okay, hey, this dream's going to come to an end. But in the moment when you're just living it every single day, it's hard to envision that road's going to end at some point, just because you're so engulfed in it, and you're just enjoying every second as much as you can. So because I remember, like, senior year when we got eliminated in the conference tournament, and you fully realize like that was the last baseball game I'm probably ever going to play. It just, I don't know. It's like all year long, you knew it was coming, but even still when it happened, you're still like, I can't believe that this is actually here. So yeah, I think that's definitely one thing pulling away from HPU. And again, it's kind of hard to, I guess, paint with that brush because you don't really know what the other universities are like, but talking with some other people too, it seems like there's some lack of preparation at the university level for preparing you for the next step. And, I got a lot of people who have degrees for stuff that they don't even use. So, pretty specific degrees that they never even did anything with. So, sure. But, at that age, it's hard to know what you're going to want to do for the next 30, 40 years of your life anyway. And there's a lot of pressure, I think, on for whatever reason, societal or whatever it is in your 20s that you're supposed to have your life figured out, right? You're supposed to know what you want to do for a career, get married, have kids. You're supposed to do all this stuff. And I feel like it kind of, I don't know, as soon as that clock starts ticking, it just seems like those seconds are going way too quick. And you're just trying to figure out, man, what, like I'm lost here, and you just constantly feel like you're behind.
It's funny. You go from,
something that,
well, I was going to say, you go from not having any idea of what you want to do to 2 years later, you're wondering, why am I not more successful? It's like this entire mind shift just flips. And from, I don't know what I'm going to do next, to why am I not CFO? Why is that person like ahead of me and he's younger than me? Or, and you start like comparing yourself and you start, it's crazy how the mind works. I think that is partly enough, being an athlete and being a competitor as well, but it is funny how it shifts. And I've had a hard time shifting it back to just enjoying life. And I think I'm finally at that point where I am. But yeah, it is funny how it shifts like that.
Well, I was going to say something my students and I talk about is that statistically, I think they say that like 1 in 4 people won't even be using their major within a couple of years out of college. And so with that statistic in mind, like I talk to them about it, like if you're only here for job training, it's really, really expensive job training. Mm-hmm. So like maybe think about college as something different, right? The sort of, awareness of life, or this is my pitch in the humanities. It's just like philosophically, like what is a good life for you? And it can't just be one-to-one parity with this thing you think you're training for, because it's probably going to change. And so I don't know, that's something that I try to stress to them, is that it's not just job training, although there's a lot of validity in the money they're spending to try to be prepared for professional life. I just don't think that's the only reason they're there.
Yeah, no, I think that's entirely fair. I do think that, yes, there is job, readiness, but at the end of the day, you're there to learn. But the problem is, and I'm sure you run into this every day, Colin, is that you have kids that are there like, why am I wanting to learn this? Like, what good is this? Why is this important? And where those are great questions, they should be answering it like in a more philosophical idea, rather than just point blank, I'm not going to use this when I'm, in healthcare finance in 20 years. Like, well, that doesn't matter. You're here to learn. You're here to engage different muscles in your brain.
Sure.
So Dustin, you said that you worked a lot of less than desirable jobs to get to the one you like now. Looking back on some of those experiences, were those forming you in some way, whether it was skills or just a mindset for the eventual job you had? Like, how do you look back on your 20s, I guess?
Oh man, absolutely. Yeah. I think it's, you kind of have to go against the grindstone a little bit. And I think, again, kind of what I was saying earlier, it's almost one of those things. It's easy to take something for granted when you haven't necessarily had the other side of the coin. And when you've had that other side of the coin, you really appreciate all the little minute things that, maybe somebody coming out of college starts working for this company that maybe they don't appreciate now. But like, because I've been through that, I'm like, no, dude, this is important. This is great. This is awesome. You don't get this everywhere. So I definitely think that. I think, obviously just from kind of gritting through it, because there's even days with this job that I'm like, man, this is kicking my butt. And, you kind of revert back to, but here are the good things about it. So it makes it kind of easier to push through. And I've pushed through worse and worse situations. So, I mean, all that stuff, I think just, it all preps you mentally for what's next. And like I said, I think truthfully, it's just from a gratitude standpoint. I don't know that I would be nearly as grateful for where I'm at if it weren't for those experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think a lot of us probably.
Man, I feel like there's a delay. Me and you, Colin, we got a little delay. We don't have a lot of rat-a-tat. stepping on each other. Go ahead.
It's all rat, no tat.
All right, no tat.
I was going to say, I think a lot of us can I don't know, echo that. And to the extent that like, I can't imagine a lot of folks land the job out of college, but I would also say it's not just jobs. I mean, if we think about, I don't know if you're married, Dustin, but like our marriages or our lives as parents, like it's not like on day one, you have this perfect relationship with your spouse or your kid. So I think similarly, like the bad times make the good times good, and you're sort of always working toward it. So maybe that's a bit of a misnomer that like I finally arrived at something.
Yeah, no, I think you're 100% right. I think that's the idea that like our parents had everything figured out. Their parents had everything figured out at such a young age, that I feel like that is another thing we just pressure ourselves into, perfection almost, when they're far from perfect.
Yeah, and a lot of that generation too, you look back, I mean, my parents and uncles, and I mean, a lot of those guys had the same jobs for 30 years. They worked somewhere out of high school or college, and that was the only place that they'd ever worked. But, I think, from a society standpoint, that's definitely changing. And so you almost kind of feel a little guilty sometimes when you're hopping around and stuff. But I know the way I always describe it to somebody, I'm like, whether you work one job or 20, you only work one job till you retire. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we all end up in the same boat, right? You're only retiring from one company.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, for sure. And I loved what you said, that I guess you've been working for your current company. I think that's an awesome attitude. I think that's incredible. I was with a bank, and I wish I never would have left. I mean, it was one of those things that I don't know if the grass was greener. We had disagreements there about certain things, and in hindsight, I shouldn't have left. Of course, I would have been gone by now anyway, since we moved up here after Angela finished her doctorate. But I wish I wouldn't have left in that way. So I love that you have that. I want to be here forever, and I wish. I don't know. That's awesome. When somebody's a company man, that they love what they do and they love the company they work for. I think that's an incredible testimony to not only them, but also the company, they're employed with.
So Dustin, get into more day-to-day stuff. Like what on a normal day, what's today? Tuesday? So I guess you would have worked today. What does a normal day look like for you?
Hey, Colin, hold on, Kelver. Since I was 2, I've loved big rig trucks. I mean, that just seems like my 2-year-old son right now. That's everything he loves. I mean, there's a truck, he wants it. My dad, he drove. Well, he drove whatever was less expensive. But so my dad was in the oil field, and so he had crane trucks to lift like pump jacks and motors and everything. Usually they were international. More of that style, not really road trucks, so to speak. I don't know how you call them, transportation or whatever. But yeah, it was. It would have been transportation. That was stupid. Scratch that. Cut that, Colin. But yeah, I absolutely love it. I love like big old diesels and just powerful trucks, and I've always loved it. So yes. Colin, now your question. What's your everyday, like you're selling trucks? That just seems like the dream job to me.
Man, yeah, it is so cool. And actually, I'll show you, I'll try and show you a picture. I actually delivered a crane truck today. So it's actually kind of funny you mentioned that. I don't know if this will show up on the screen or not, but.
What kind of kind of crane is that? Is that like a heavy duty, like a telephone pole?
Yep, exactly. Yep. So this company, they do all of the like all the street signs on the highway, on the freeways. They do the light poles. They do parking lots. They do all that stuff. So it's kind of cool. Anytime I go deliver stuff over there, I'm like looking around at the signs. I'm like, okay, I know all these exits I'm about to avoid in the next 6 months because there's about to be construction going on. But yeah, no, that's exactly it. So that crane just kind of moves from one side to the other, kind of around that way. And yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, man, this is such a unique industry too. I mean, there's probably, with all the manufacturers combined, I mean, there might be 1,200 people who do what I do nationwide, not just Mac related. And so it's just really, really cool kind of being in that. And yeah, I mean, it's such a cool product to sell. I mean, it really, really is. There's a lot of nuance to it. I mean, literally building a truck from the ground up, and there's it's a lot to learn too, right? Because you got customers who need specific things for specific reasons, but it is a really, really cool product to sell. I never in a million years, again, even Dr. Patton wasn't talking about being a truck salesman at Howard Payne, but it's a very lucrative industry too, and it's awesome. So kind of day to day, I mean, it really varies so much just kind of being in sales. Sometimes it's what fire am I going to put out today, but like, for instance, this week is driver appreciation week. So I've been setting up catering, lunches and breakfast for customers all week. So this week's a little bit nuanced, but I mean, typically kind of get, into the office, kind of get through some deal sheets and some paperwork stuff. And, I have to hop in trucks and drive them and deliver them to customers sometimes. You got to go out. We sell trailers too. So we'll go out and demonstrate trailers. But a lot of it is just kind of trying to manage relationships on a day-to-day basis, with current customers, with conquest accounts, you're cold calling, it's constant. There's times I get done with my day and I've gone back and counted. I'll have, 70 phone calls in the day, and you're just on the phone all day long in the truck driving from, so I cover like out west in Weatherford, and then I go like up toward Denton over to the airport and back down into Fort Worth. So I've got a pretty wide territory and cover a lot of land. But really, I think the biggest thing is just, like I say, just managing relationships internally. You got guys who call you because their truck's breaking down and they're pissed off at you at the moment, and got guys calling you because they need parts. They got guys calling you because they want to buy trucks. They got guys calling you because somebody else is cheaper. But really just trying to stay in front of your guys and setting up lunches and setting up. We do some golf outings, and we're about to do we're going to the Cody Johnson concert. We just got a suite for some of our customers for that. So there's some really, really cool things too that we do. Sometimes I'll bring my parts and service guys with me on some sales calls to introduce them to the customer, and they're answering all the questions about, well, if my truck's down, how long is it going to take? And can I get the parts? And they go through that whole deal for about a half hour. And I'm like, hey, you guys want to do anything fun? You want to go play golf? You want to go to a concert? I'm your guy. I'm the fun guy. These guys right here, they'll handle all the bad stuff. But yeah, a lot of driving around. I mean, like I say, just stopping in on customers, checking on how things are going, and like I say, there's never really a dull moment. The day is always, you get home and you're just like, where'd the day go? Between trying to get all the invoices out to everybody and delivering trucks. And, there's a lot of moving parts too in getting these trucks delivered. I mean, you got to get bodies mounted on them. You got to get them rigged up. You got to get, wet kits and PTOs and, all sorts of stuff. I mean, it's moving trucks all over DFW, trying to get this stuff done. You're trying to coordinate all that, trying to keep to the timeline with the customer. And, so there's always something going on, and day to day it varies so much. But like I said, I think the biggest part of my job is managing relationships, and even my GM, there's kind of a fine line there sometimes where I've got to, my job is to be an advocate for my customer internally. And so sometimes you have to push back against your own company a little bit, and there's a fine line there too, where you still have to be the company man, but at the same time, you have to kind of dig your heels in a little bit internally and say, hey guys, we need to try and step up and do something here too. So, like I say, managing internal relationships and external relationships is really the biggest part of my day for sure.
Colin, what's a PTO?
A PTO, I believe, is one of those trucks. It's got a back wheel in case the one pops off, and
That's exactly right, man.
Absolutely.
I'm the kind of guy. I'm Googling, is my car 4-wheel drive?
The crazy thing is now I have to go back and tell my customers I've been telling them what a PTO is and that it's wrong the whole time. I have to go tell them that this is actually what it is now. So thank you for educating me on that.
Of course, that's what the pod's about. Justin, I'm the kind of guy in college, Justin, where like if I got a flat one time and I think I called my whole phone book of like first Peter, he doesn't answer. I call Kirk, I call Ben. I'm like, just somebody come fix it. I'm not gonna do it.
The crazy thing is like I say, I've never been a gearhead. I've never been. My parents and my brother, they could rip apart a car and put it back together with their eyes closed. But it just never really interested me. But this job has made me definitely be more in tune with that. I'm certainly not like, I have buddies who are like, oh, you're probably like, I can probably call you with my car problems. I'm like, no, dude, like you don't want to talk to me. I could get you to somebody who can, but like I'm not that guy. But I definitely have to learn a lot more about that stuff just being in the role that I'm in. So there's been a big learning curve there for sure. Probably the first year and a half that I was doing this, it was just like you just kind of felt like you were trying to stay above water the whole time,
Yeah, especially trying not to sound like an idiot in front of customers
Again,
that have dealt with somebody that's done it for 20 years.
Yeah, the previous guy was the previous guy was a service manager too. So I mean, he could talk. He could tell you where everything on the truck was with his eyes closed. And then I walk in there and I'm like, I mean, hey, I'd show you how to start it.
You ever do the Tommy Boy line?
I haven't pulled that one out yet. But
what has it been?
You get a good look at a T-bone by sticking your. Well, hey, this is kind of a different, I guess, thing. So I feel like trucking has been the similar, obviously there's been changes through the years, but there's like a few years ago, there's a big push for like liquid natural gas. LNG was like the next thing, right? Especially in this area with the amount of natural gas that's being produced, liquid natural gas, things going online, plants going online, and that's kind of, I don't want to say it's gone away, but you definitely don't hear about it as much. And then now, like Tesla has this electric thing. Do you think will it ever be like, will diesel be the minority of trucks on the road in the next however many years, you think?
That is the plan. Yeah, that is the plan. That there's actually new emission laws going into effect. Actually, in California, you cannot buy a diesel truck that's 2025 model year, so built after January 1 of this year. You cannot buy it.
Even the big big trucks, semi.
Yep. Yeah. Wow. So the current NOx emission rate is like 0.02 or whatever it is, and so they're cutting that back, and none of the OEM's engines meet that standard for California, so they can't buy any diesel, so they're having to buy all electric. There are electric tractors out there right now. Volvo has electric day cab tractors. So a tractor and a truck. So the tractor has a kingpin and a fifth wheel to hook up to a trailer, and a truck just you put a body on it. Basically, is the difference between the two. So Volvo has a day cab tractor. Mack has that electric trash trucks that they're running on the road right now. So, I mean, it's coming. It'll definitely be a big player with as many like over the road highway stuff as there is. It'll be a big player. I don't know that it'll ever be maybe the minority, maybe a little bit state dependent on that. Like Texas is so construction heavy. I mean, you're never going to see a concrete truck, electric concrete truck or anything like that. But over the road stuff, it for sure is coming. Actually, Volvo is already doing an autonomous truck. So one that drives itself.
Mack Mack is under Volvo, correct?
Correct.
Kind of.
Yeah.
So does Mack? Do they have anything in production for that, or will they just follow Volvo's kind of lead on?
So Mack has an electric trash truck. So they call them cab overs. Electric trash truck that's operating. They've got in Greensboro, North Carolina, and then up in New York, they're running electric trash trucks already. We've actually got one at our dealership that we demo for customers too. So my son
has a Hot Wheel electric trash truck.
yeah.
I'm not even joking. It's his favorite one.
What's crazy about that though is that those electric trash trucks, they've actually become too quiet. That they've gotten too many complaints about people missing trash day. So they're trying to figure out how to make them a little bit louder, actually.
That's so true. Because when I hear it in the morning, I sprint out the door when I know I missed it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, it's definitely, that's going to be a new thing. It's coming. And Mack makes they call it a medium duty product. So it's like they got a non-CDL truck and then a class 7 truck. And they've got electric versions of that too. So you think like moving companies, furniture movers, stuff like that, they don't need a big heavy duty class 8 truck. There's electric trucks for that. And I think that'll probably be the best application for it. Honestly, the people that are just kind of doing short hauls in town, where you can go home at night and charge it. That's probably the best application for it.
So is liquid natural gas, is that dead on arrival essentially? I mean, I know there's some companies that use it, but
yeah, I think you get into so many variables there, just with lack of availability of it, and obviously their costs associated with it. I mean, I'm sure that there's going to be some applications for it. a lot of the people that I talk to think that hydrogen is going to be a bigger player than any of these other alternatives. So they think that hydrogen vehicles is going to be probably the best solution, I guess, going towards zero emissions.
I was going to ask you this, Dustin, not to get into like your personal politics, but in the line of work you're in, I think it's easy for sort of like legislators and the policymakers to say like, we want to be, carbon neutral or whatever it is, right? We want to get to this by this point. But then I think it's a whole nother thing for like complete industries to just on a dime pivot toward that, and the cost, like the human cost that will have on the economy and on travel and getting things where they're going. And so what's been your experience in that line of work between, that sounds great, but we can't do that?
Man, it really is. It's caused a lot of uncertainty, I think, throughout. I mean, obviously, guys in California, they're having to figure out alternatives, whether it's open up a yard in Nevada and register all their trucks in Nevada so they're not technically in California, or, have somebody else do the hauling, because all that stuff's coming to Texas. It's going to be 2027. All 50 states are going to be under the same emission rules. Now, obviously, by then, hopefully the OEMs will have an engine that can meet up to it, but it certainly plays a part. I mean, I think, you got some hesitancy in the market with these guys and trying to figure out what's the 5-year plan look like now. And, truck costs are going to go up, and you got a lot of people who certainly they're like, these guys have never, they've never driven a truck, let alone, own a trucking company. So how are they making all the laws that dictate what we can and can't do? And it's making it hard to do business for a lot of these guys. It really, really is. And I think, certainly in the industry that I'm in, it's very one-sided politically, what a lot of people think and view and believe. But it's going to be very interesting to see how all that plays out, because, everything sounds great on paper until you start to try and apply it in the real world. Like even these electric vehicles, right? I mean, they launched them, and there's been a lot of problems with them. I mean, it really, really has. Yeah,
well, that's what I was going to say, is I don't think policymakers, understand like the real impact that it's going to have. And so they can, I'm really into sort of politics and government. Like people can campaign on, pie in the sky, this is the way it's going to be in the next 10 years. But, it just so happens I won't be in office after 5 years. So I can run on like all this stuff about emissions and carbon, but it's entire industries and people's livelihoods that can't just turn on a dime to respond in a way that's even manageable. So I don't know. I don't really think that policymakers consider the actual impact of the things they're proposing.
Yeah, it really is. So like back to the California thing, not just to beat the dead horse on that, but that's just the real life example that we're living now with that. And so, they have to order electric truck if they want to buy something that's made after January 1. But the waiting time, I think it's 3 years for a charging station. So it's like, even if they bought the electric truck, what are they going to do with it? They have to wait 3 years to get a charging station. Right. So, again, not that people need any more reason to like leave California, but like, what are these people supposed to do at this point? Like they're, their family businesses and everything else that, it's really, there's going to be a ripple effect from it. And obviously none of this stuff that they're pushing now is any cheaper either. So, it really is. That's really one of the big talking points, I think, in my line of work on a day-to-day basis is all the new policies that are coming down. And it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out for sure. Because all the OEMs, they have to build a certain number of clean emissions trucks in order to build diesel trucks. So that plays a part in it too. They have to sell enough electric. They have to sell enough sleeper trucks to build, all these others. So it all plays a part of it. And it's all government regulated stuff.
And typically, I mean, historically, Ben, we're doing it again. I was going to say, historically, what that does is benefits the bigger guys, which is so ironic because they're running on this policy of like, we want to look out for everyone or whatever. But what it does is it shelters the bigger, more established companies that can see through all the red tape and outlast the smaller guys. And then they're still standing. And I'm always talking to my students about COVID, and you look at all the mom and pop shops that had to close down. Well, those were the businesses ostensibly that were trying to like save and protect. Well, no, they all go out of business, and you still have Target and Walmart because they can outlast them. So it's always what economists call like perverse incentives. It's doing the opposite of what you think it's doing.
Yeah, creating our own internal monopolies is basically what's happening, right?
Yeah, I was about to say,
right.
And it's pretty much only big. I mean, I don't even know. Are there any boutique truck shops or truck manufacturers anymore? I mean,
not really.
I know, like there were, like a long time ago. I don't even know outside of the big, I don't even know how many, 5 or 6, Dustin. Like it's because
yep.
they're able to pivot. You're exactly right, Colin. They're able to pivot. They have resources, and they also have loopholes. Like, so many of these have to be built. We'll just build a ton of this style that will sell. When really the thing that legislatures are going after are the bigger trucks. They'll still be able to manufacture whatever they want of that. You're absolutely right. The bigger trucks or the bigger companies are always smarter. They have attorneys that are on staff and accountants that can figure out ways around it. You're exactly right.
Well, Ben, I got about 5 more minutes of juice on my laptop, so we got time for a couple more questions.
Yeah, man. I guess like kind of in that same vein, what is your obviously you're kind of a regional manager, relationship manager, right? So you handle, like you said, relationships from your little circle, Weatherford, Denton. Is that kind of is the movement up, if you even want to do that? Is that just like you start getting these more like relationship managers under you? Is that something you want to do? Do you want to work your way? What's your kind of 5-year plan?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. I've always kind of thought I'd be management material. When I took this job in truck sales, everybody in the company told me, man, you got the best job in the company. And I was just, they're just trying to say that because I'm new. But like, I have a little bit more exposure to the management side of things now too. And honestly, again, man, I love what I do. I didn't think that I would love truly my day-to-day role as much as I do. And I think as long as I'm in this spot loving what I do, I'm probably good. There's a lot of stresses and things that come with that management. We cover, we've got 40 some locations in 8 states. So there's a lot more travel involved if you go the corporate route on stuff. And so, man, I'm just really kind of living in the moment right now and loving what I do. And the guy that I took over for did this for 30 years and lived a great life. So I'm like, man, what's wrong with that? So I guess to be determined on that. But for right now, I if I retire a Mack truck salesman in Fort Worth, Texas, I'm good with that.
Yeah, no, that's an extremely healthy view on things. I kind of look at that. I'm in healthcare finance, over on, if you knew that. And man, and every, like the CFO above me and then the regional CFO, they're emailing me at like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 5 a.m. I came up here to the hospital to do this, and the CFO here is still here. And it's just like, how much emphasis do you want to put on work and money over like family time? And obviously it's a balance for everyone. And me and Colin talk about it on this show quite a bit, but I think that's an extremely healthy way to look at it. And not everybody has to move up. At the end of the day, you don't have, if you love what you do, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, for sure. And I got a great example. The guy next to me he's been doing it for 35 years, and he probably makes more than some of the managers in the company. And I'm like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. But I guess on that work-life thing, Ben, you kind of mentioned that you feel like you're in a good spot with that. I feel like that's one area where I really struggle. I mean, for me right now, it's just me, so I can kind of be selfish, but I'm kind of worried that like I'm going to get in that mode and not be able to flip that switch when the time comes to have other people, in my life. So I guess what's maybe some advice or some things that you feel like have helped you kind of balance that work-life balance? Because I really do think I struggle with that quite a bit.
Well, you're not supposed to ask the questions. So, I really think for me, it was honestly like when I had my first son is kind of where it all clicked. And I had these visions of being this big hotshot guy in finance and maybe do investment banking and do all this, do all this stuff. And it really clicked. Like at the time I was a banker and I was like, I wouldn't mind being a banker for the rest of my life. I see the lifestyle that they all have, the family they have. And although they are busy, they make it a point. I think that's the biggest thing. And Colin, you can attest to this. It's just being there, like being intentional with your time. You can be busy. You can be, if you have to take phone calls, you have to take phone calls. If you have to work, you have to work. But I think being intentional in the times that you're there and making like time to be intentional, like I feel like those are two different things. That's what really made a big difference for me. And I had a guy, my first boss was very big on that. He set me down and he told me, he goes, hey, you're going to get out of this what you put into it, but also whatever you put into it, you're going to be taken away elsewhere. Like you only have so much pie to go around. Like make sure you're divvying it up accordingly. So I think
That's good stuff.
honestly, like I feel like you're in a great spot. Like you grind, you get to a place, and then if a family comes around, then that's when you kind of self-assess, right? Colin, is that kind of how? I mean, I know you're busy and you've had several life changes. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, man, it's definitely something I still struggle with. And I was talking to actually a counselor about that, and she was suggesting, because I was telling her, I was like, when I'm at home, I'm typically like, I'll be thinking about work. And when I'm at work, I'm thinking about I should be home helping out. And so she was just pointing out the obvious, which is that like I can be discontent in both places because I'm thinking about the other. And so that tried to help me think about, she just said, when you're at work, work. And when you're at home, you're home. Like, and that's easier said than done, but really try to not be thinking about the other, because it can really lead to a sort of cycle of frustration that if I'm in the office till 6, maybe I got late meetings or whatever, so I really got to hustle home. But it just really sort of festers this anxiety that like, if it can't be helped, it can't be helped. And my wife certainly understands that. So I'm not there yet, but it's something I aspire to, is like contentment in both places, because most of our lives are going to be both of those things all the time. And so it's not sustainable to always be thinking about the other and putting that pressure on ourselves. I don't know if that's like a male thing, or I don't know, maybe females struggle with that as well. But certainly as like, I work, Kristen stays home with the girl. So like, I do feel this pressure of like, I got to work, I got to find other ways to make money and do all this kind of stuff. And those opportunities arise, but not like an obsession to the point where, it's like diminishing returns at home. I think it was you were talking about, Ben.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And to me, I think that y'all are in similar situations, even y'all aren't in the same field, right? Like Kilver, I'm sure your customers have your cell phone, so they probably call it, text it. Like your availability is kind of a great thing, but it's also a horrible thing, because I was right there when I was a relationship manager. And Colin, you kind of make your own, like you're on your own journey, right? You're almost like a business owner. Like, yeah, you're a professor, but no one's really over you telling you what to do. Like you make it what you want. So you have this idea of what you want it to be. And so that's why you're always thinking about it. And I think it's everyone trying to be there, trying to be the best version of themselves, like at all times. And I feel like that can work against you when you're at home and you're trying to be the best. Like you still have this, oh man, like what if I did this, or what if we did this? And I feel like that's something that it's just a battle. And I think it's fine. It's okay to work. It's okay to like work on yourself. I mean, it's okay to say, you know what, again, Colin, you talked to a counselor about it. I think that's perfect. I think that's, you find the help you need. It's okay to work on yourself. And as long as we realize, kind of going back, that our parents, our mentors, our parents, they're not perfect. And so we shouldn't strive to be perfect. We should just strive to be better versions of ourselves at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I want to try to model that now for my girls, so that it's not some sort of cycle of anxiety that they see in me and then model in their adulthood. And so I really, for their sake, am trying to work on that. Well, boys, this was fun. Dustin, it was good chatting. Like I said, I don't know. I'm sure we interfaced about 12 years ago, but
yeah, man, I really enjoyed it. Appreciate you guys inviting me on. And is there a spot to like kind of listen routinely to you guys? I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, we're on YouTube every week, usually every Wednesdays. Our podcast drop. Yours will drop in 2 weeks. So I don't know what day it is, so I don't have my glass on. So that'll be the 1st of October, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's
or 2nd of October. So yeah, yours will drop in 2 weeks. But yeah, ours usually drops every week. We really appreciate you coming on. We do have a outro if you haven't listened. So
okay.
Colin says something, then I say something, and then you say meets life.
Meets life. Okay.
Meets life. All right. This has never worked out well for us, and all our friends hate us for doing it. But I enjoy it. So we're just gonna do it. All right, Colin.
All right. You've been listening to We're Just Ken,
where comedy
meets life.
Hey.